Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I am Christine Dixon of The Ordinary Sacred, and this is actually the final video in my IFS Basics teaching series that I've been doing, which is basically just me going through the slides that I use for my IFS 101 self-paced course, which you can get as a gift on my website, theordinarysacred.com. Actually, everything, all my resources, self-paced courses, workshops, worksheets, and meditations are all gifts to you at theordinarysacred.com. And the course has group sessions and all kinds of other applications. But today, what I wanted to do is go through the final slide, which is just some offerings of suggestions of questions that you can ask both protective parts and exiles. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and we'll see how this goes because I haven't looked at this in a while. I will likely add some things to it, I imagine. Um, so I'm going to try to make myself a little bigger. All right. So some helpful questions. Now, if and when you are in self energy, you will feel very naturally curious and open and really want to hear about a part's experience and why they do what they do and learn how they make sense. So the best thing really is to just follow the flow of your curiosity. So these questions are some helpful things. I'll tell you why you might, when and why you might want to ask some of these questions, but you really can ask whatever comes from genuine care and curiosity for the part. Okay, so we'll start with some questions to ask a protector. The first one I have here is, how are you protecting me? Now, they're likely protecting an exile or another part, or maybe they're polarized with another extreme part. But you can ask them, how are you protecting me? And another way to ask this might be, what's your job? What do you do for me? How do you help me? Those kinds of things. And again, you really, if your attitude toward the part is very open and like, I really want to learn about you, I often use the analogy of like an astronaut is in front of you and you're like asking all these questions that come from genuine curiosity about what it's like to be in outer space and what does their job entail and what do they do every day and how does it feel. So that's kind of the same energy that we come at a part with, genuinely wanting to understand their experience and what they do and how they help us. So that could be a good question. Now, the next question is one of the big ones. If we went through the six F's, the fears question, right? This is a really important one to ask a protector. What do you think will happen if you were to stop doing your job, right? Or what are you afraid would happen? Sometimes when you ask, what are you afraid would happen? They're like, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of anything, right? They might get defensive, even being insinuated that they're afraid, but they are. They are always doing what they're doing because they're afraid something will happen. So you could word it, what do you think will happen? Not what are you afraid would happen? And what do you think would happen if you were to stop doing your job? And really seek to understand the fear, basically, of what would happen and show appreciation for their hard work. So when a protective part answers this question, they are almost always either pointing at the part they protect and what's happening to them still, because they're stuck in a past moment of trauma, or they might be pointing at a polarized part that's really extreme and causing, um, maybe having a negative impact on the system. So, for example, let's say you ask, what are you afraid would happen, or what do you think will happen if you don't criticize me inside? Say you're talking to an inner critic, and they say, um, you'll be completely rejected and abandoned because I'm trying to get these qualities in you to go away so that you don't get rejected and abandoned. And so they are likely pointing to an exile, a part that is stuck in a moment of rejection and abandonment and deep pain and shame. And so I might say, when did that happen? And if they really believe that I'm genuinely want to understand and help, they will tell me about the scene that that part is stuck in, and I can ask, can I go to them and help them? Now, a lot of times this fears, if you think about the 6 F's, the fear question is actually at the end. So by the time we ask this, we've often listened a lot to some other things about why they do what they do and how they feel about it. And just really explored and got to know them. We might ask this, I probably don't have this here, but a good thing to ask a protector is like, do you see me? How do you feel about me? Who do you see when you look at me? Because you really want to get the sense that the protector is seeing the self and not seeing another protector or the exile. Um, because you want to be able to build rapport for them to know that you really are not there to judge them or scold them or get them to stop, that you really want, your goal is to understand them. Okay, so let's see, what is the next one? Yes, I like to ask a protector what it would like to be called. So a lot of times we call parts, it's like other parts are calling them things. So an inner critic, right? This is a critical voice. This is a mean voice, right? This is the angry part, or this is the lazy part, right? This is the procrastinator. This is the people-pleasing part, whatever it is, right? And it's really, really helpful to ask the part, what do you want to be called? Because sometimes they'll say another part is calling the part of procrastinating part, and you ask them, what would you like to be called? And they're like, I'm the fun guy. I like to have fun. I'm the chill guy, right? Or they might say something like that. Or in, in my case, many of my parts will give me a direct name. Um, they'll just, I have Edna and I have Sebastian and I have both male and female parts. Again, people ask me, how did you decide to call them that? And then I say, well, I didn't. They told me to call them that. So I just ask, what would you like to be called? And sometimes you might have to ask thinking parts that want to try to fill it in if they'll give you space just for nothing to receive an answer of what they want to be called. And a lot of times, like when I do this with clients, they're tickled by it, right? Like what comes back. They just go, okay, right? You want to be called Rainbow Bright? Okay. You want to be called the Skater Chick or I have a part that appears like Gollum, that wanted to be called Gollum. Um, so anyway, it could be anything. But the reason why to me this is so helpful and so important is that it these really are like people inside that we are relating to. It's like another person is standing in front of us and we don't know much about them, and they are telling us all about themselves, all about their life and why they make sense. And we want to relate to them like another person who we respect. And, um, you know, we would call them by name, right? If another person came into the room, we wouldn't be like, hey, you, right? We would say, if we have respect for them and rapport with them, we would call them by their name. Sometimes eventually you'll even have little nicknames and like uh, terms of affection for them as you get to know them deeper. But it's just like a relationship with another person. And when you can call them by name, there's really this, it becomes established that you, the self, are relating to another part of you, right? That becomes really clear because you are calling them by name. So there's this distinction. Like when Gollum is a type of critic that will often come up after I've done something and thinks that I've made a fool of myself and I'm so embarrassing, right? And so I'll notice that come up and I'll say, oh, hey, Gollum, I see you. I see you're here, right? There are tells. And then as soon as I call that by name, Now there's unblending, right? There's a separation of now I am relating to Gollum, and I'll say, what are you worried about? Tell me about it, right? So it really facilitates the relationship between self and part when we have a name for a part. So that's why to me that's very important. Okay. So this question, how old do you think I am, is similar to the who do you see when you look at me? You would ask this of a protector if it feels like they don't trust you, they're not talking to you, they're ignoring you, they have a attitude with you. You can either ask them, who do you see when you look at me? Or how old do you think I am? And again, you just wait for a response to receive it. Even if there's nothing, that's fine, because often there's parts that think I have to think up the answer, I have to make something up. You do not. If there's nothing, that's okay. They're just not responding, right? But just wait for a number to come, right? How old do you think I am? Often it'll come really quickly, if they're open, and it'll often be younger than usually always pretty much younger than 20, but it could be any number. I mean, just be open to any number. Sometimes they'll say all kinds of things, and there's no wrong answer. It's just getting curious about that. I've had people say they think I'm a hundred, right? And say, oh, that's so interesting, right? I wonder what part they are of you they're seeing right now. It must be a part that is presenting as very old. But often it'll be very young. And it'll be, I think you're three, I think you're five, I think you're 10. And you want to update the part, right? And let it know, no, actually, I am 50, and usually they're very surprised when you update them. It's one of the fun things I think in IFS to really see because this is one of the parts when I work with people, especially the beginning, and they ask a part, how old do you think I am? And it'll say three. And I'll say, okay, tell the part how old you are and tell me how the part responds. And they're in shock. They're like, what? Right? And people get so tickled by the response that this is when they often realize, oh my gosh, my parts are really separate from me and I am relating to them. And they genuinely don't know how old I am. Usually because a protective part is so fixated on the part that they're protecting. It's like they're laser focused, hyper vigilant on that, or they are locked in, on the part they're polarized with. So they're usually the age they say is either the part they're protecting or it's a part that they dislike that is like trying to control them and they're like, right, like the procrastinator might be polarized, but the chill guy might be polarized with the taskmaster, right? And the taskmaster is like, I am the hardworking utilitarian. I don't know. They have a name for themselves that tells their good qualities, right? And so we say, okay, that guy is really extreme and he is making us work so hard and he hates me, as the chill guy. He doesn't want us to chill ever. And so the chill guy is really seeing this taskmaster when they look at you, essentially, because that's usually who they're dealing with. So it's good to get a sense for who they think you are, and then you can update them, and you might be blended with that part, and you can ask the part, "Can you stand next to me?" And then ask, "Who do you see now?" or "How old do you think I am now?" or and just you might have to keep asking parts to stand next to you until they see the self. Really important though that they see the self because if they're not dealing with the self, they're either not going to let you go to the exile or another part's going to go to the exile and it's not going to go well. So you really want to keep checking for how that part is perceiving you. Okay, so when you update the protector with your current age and you express gratitude for its work, which you feel very genuinely when they tell you what they do and why they do it, you may then ask its permission to talk to the exile. If it does not give it, you address any concerns It may need to build trust in the self. Yes. Assure the protector that you also want the safety and healing of the exile and that you can help the protector so that it can rest. I don't know if I have this one here, but you can also ask, just hypothetically, if you could rest, because a lot of times they don't think it's possible. They haven't experienced the self yet. Um, if you could, what would you rather do? Sometimes they're like, I can't even imagine doing anything else. This is what I've always done. I have to do this. So you say, well, would it feel good to you to just be able to rest sometimes, And sometimes, so again, you want to listen to their concerns. So the question you would ask would be if they don't want to allow you access to the exile, is what are you afraid would happen if you did allow me to talk to the exile? They might say the exile is going to overwhelm the system, and then there's going to be backlash from another protector. And so you say, oh, okay, can I go to that protector and, and befriend them as well? Or because that might need to happen. There might be several protectors that protect an exile, and you really do need to get permission from all of them. Um, they might say, you can't go because like I'm the only one that can protect them. And I don't trust you yet, right? I don't really know who you are. So you might propose an experiment of what if you let me go for 5 minutes or 2 minutes or something, and we'll set a timer and you can come with me and you can shut it down at any point if you think that I'm harming the exile or the exile's overwhelming the system, right? Always respect the protectors. They are the boss, as Dick Short says. And they can help you with the exile because they usually know the exile very, very well and are loyal. Sometimes they don't like the exile. And so it is important that they're not running the show. But okay. And then once the exile is healed, so this is in one of the last ones, you saw the kind of whole process of IFS. So I'm skipping over we're going to talk about questions asked the exile in a second, but basically you've befriended the protector, you've gotten permission, you've gone to the exile, and then after that, you want to come back to the protector and ask if they saw what happened with the exile. Sometimes they did, and they're like, whoo, oh my gosh, it's amazing, and they're jumping up and down, or they're able to rest. Other times they are not aware of it. It's really interesting. And so you can review it with them, you can show them the exile, have the exile tell them. And then ask if the protector is willing to give up its role of protector and to the self, essentially, that the self can now be the primary caregiver of this exile. If so, you can ask them what new role would they like to have now. They might also want a new name, or they might change images, they might shapeshift to something new. Again, just be open to whatever happens. Now, if they're not willing to give up their role, which they may not be. They might be like, this just happened. I'm not ready yet. I need to be on standby. And that's fine because normally after you work with an exile and you witness and reparent and retrieve and unburden it, you do want to meet with that exile every day for 3 or 4 weeks. It doesn't have to be for long, 20 seconds a day. It could be just to keep connecting to build that secure attachment between self and the exile. That is the evidence that the protector needs to know that you as the self are going to be able to care for the exile, right? So it might need to see that before it can fully unburden or rest or take on a new role, and that's fine. Um, it might need other things to happen. It might need its own unburdening, right? It might have a cultural burden on it or a legacy burden, or it might be carrying something that it wants to release in an official unburdening. So whatever the concern is, you can meet it. You don't ever need to force a part to do anything. You just get curious about what blocks the way, and whatever blocks the way is the way. All right. Okay, let's continue on to questions to ask an exile. Okay. So sometimes if you're visual, you can see how old an exile is. I kind of get a sense for it. But you can also ask, how old are you? Sometimes they'll give one number, sometimes they'll give several numbers or a range of numbers. Just be open to whatever they reveal to you. Again, you don't have to think it up. You don't have to, all the parts that want to get the right answer can relax. I also like to ask the exile, what would you like to be called? And again, they may want to change their name after they're healed. For example, I have one who was called Death Girl, and after she was healed, she wanted to be called Flower Girl. So again, just be open to whatever it is that uh again, it's just like people, right? What would you like to be called? Um, what are your pronouns, right? Like there's seriously parts can show up as different genders, non-binary, even creature-like, animal-like. Again, just be open. However a part is presenting, it is giving you information about itself that is very valuable. And again, it sometimes it can change, and that's okay too. Okay, the next one says, what would you like me to witness? So this is the first step with exiles, right? To witness them. And the exile may show you one specific memory, or that may show you flashes of several different memories. Or it might show you it might not be visual. It might be a bodily memory, like a somatic feeling in your throat, in your hands, or your somewhere specific in your body. It might be a general unease. It might be a feeling of terror. It might show you a posture of like shame and humiliation. Again, just be open to whatever wants to show you. Again, any of your senses, it's all really helpful information. And the more the exile trusts you, the more it will reveal to you. And so again, kind of like with the protectors, I would also with the exile kind of ask, do you see me? Who do you see when you look at me? Again, this is when an exile is closed off to you, not responding to you, doesn't seem to trust you. You really want to check if maybe you're blended with another part that doesn't like it, and see if you can ask that part if they'll stand next to you. Or maybe they're used to dealing with a certain part, and so they don't really know who you are, or you're just unknown, so they, they don't trust you yet. And you can ask them even, is there something I can do to help you trust me more? Sometimes they'll say, I want you to stay far away from me. I don't want you to get close without my permission. And of course, the self will always respect that. Or I want you to um, sit down and get at my eye level because you're towering over me right now, or some, just whatever it is, whatever they need to feel safe with you, really. And when you're asking about the witnessing, you can say, is there anything you want me to know about you and your experience? And then once they show you something, you say, is there anything else? Is there anything else? Is there anything else? Right? And just let them keep showing you until they say, that's it. And sometimes later they'll be like, oh, and this too. And that's okay. Sometimes they want to show you negative experiences. Other times they really want to show you positive experiences, things that they experienced that they did not have a witness for. Nobody got excited for them about their first lost tooth, or when they discovered this tree house or something, right? And so they're just wanting to show you what they want to be witnessed. So it's a very, very sacred experience, honoring experience. Okay. So another question to ask an exile is, how are you feeling? Sometimes you can see it, you can feel it in your own body, but you can ask them to show you, to tell you about it. And they'll often express very extreme emotions and beliefs. And the self will know exactly what to do to comfort them, to help them. And you can just go with the flow of your intuition if you're in self. Now, sometimes the exile will come on so strong that it'll be hard to have self energy and in relationship to it. And so you can just say, "Oh, I see you. I see you. Wow, yeah, that's so much pain. Can you remove just a tiny bit of it so that I can be with you?" Right? Or you can give them a dial. Now, it's very important that the dial is with the exile and not with the protector, right? Protectors are used to controlling them and turning them off. But you say, no, this is your dial. And you have control of it, exile. And if you can turn it down just a little bit, your energy, I can be with you. So then there's enough space for me to be with you. And they will almost always do that because that's all they want is to be seen and heard and loved. And so if they know that there is a presence that can give them that, they will happily turn it down. The only reason they've been turning it up so high for so long is because they think that the only way they can get attention is by getting it from people outside of you. And so they've got to turn it up really big and like sound the alarm system to get that attention. And often doesn't work. The other parts are really upset and they try to push it down. But once they see there's one inside that can give them attention, if they turn it down just a little, um, then they are usually very happy to do that. Okay, and I want to say real quick about the last one too, that the self really is so much bigger than any of the parts and can be this beautiful container and allow the exile to turn it all the way up. But sometimes other parts get really worried about it. So can be a little negotiation of can you turn it down a little and then trust that the self's here. And then the self gives them permission to turn it back up, and fully show their grief, their terror, their shame, all of that. Because the self can be the untroubled space for that. Okay, so then once you have witnessed everything, you can ask them, is there anything that you want me to do or say with or for you back there? This wording I got directly from Dick because I would hear him in demos say this all the time, and I really like it because is there anything you want me to do or you want me to help you do, right? Either with you or for you back there. I'm going to be with you. You're not going to have to do anything by yourself. And maybe you feel like you can't do it. You can't stand up to your perpetrator and you want me to do it for you. Or maybe you want me to stand with you and hold your hand and have your back while you stand up and say no to your perpetrator. Or you want me to take you out of the situation. Or again, just just receive from them what it is that they needed to be done back there that wasn't done, right? Um, okay, is there another one? Yeah. Okay, so then once you have fully witnessed, they say, yep, that's it. And then you have reparented. You've gone and helped them do things and that they needed to do back there to fight, to flee, to um, be loved in their pain. Then you can ask them if they're ready to come into the present and be cared for by you, the self, right? And they can go to any place they want to go to, real or imaginary. But it's essentially that they're going to come out of that time in the past and into the present to be cared for by you. And again, just be open to them saying yes or no. They have their own free will. We will never force them and address any concerns. So if they say, no, 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 I don't think I can, you'd say, what are you afraid would happen if you did? And often it's they're leaving loved ones behind or they don't trust this space, and you can explain that they have free will. They can bring their loved ones with them. They can, uh, if they get there and it's not safe, they can go right back. They don't ever have to do anything that they're not comfortable with. Okay, I think this is the last one. It says, once the exile is healed and retrieved, you can ask for a symbol that represents its wound or burden. I'm kind of going through the steps here of working with the exile. Um, Ask for a symbol that represents its wound or burden. It's usually something in or around its body. And then give it the option to release it in a cleansing ritual using light, fire, water, wind, earth, metal, or anything it desires. And then this should be a separate question, but ask what new qualities it wants to take in. So the first one there is really, well, there's several here. Where is your burden or what represents your burden? Um, Sometimes they have several burdens, right? They might have a feeling of terror, or grief, and then they also feel guilt or shame. And so they might identify several. You might do a couple different rituals with the different ones. But once they identify them, you can offer to do an unburdening ritual and you can just leave it up to them. You don't even have to give them this menu of elements. You can just say, how would you like to get rid of it? See what they say. And if they struggle and they're like, I don't know how to get rid of it. You can say, well, a lot of people, want to give it to one of the elements, and you can offer that menu, and they might say, oh, I want to throw it in a fire. Oh, I want to wash it in a waterfall, right? But again, this whole process, you are receiving an answer. No one is making anything up. It's like a person in front of you is responding to you, and you had no idea what they were going to say before that. Um, and same thing with retrieval, right? If they have concern, they don't want to give up their burden for whatever reason, you just want to get curious about what their concern is. What are you afraid would happen if you gave up this burden? And again, there's common concerns. I don't know who I would be without it. I've always been the victim, or I've always been this carrying shame. And you can propose experiments. Propose, what if we got rid of 50% of it and you saw how that felt in your body? Or, whatever they're comfortable with. Um, they might have other concerns like, I would be betraying my family or someone if I got rid of this. That might indicate there's a legacy burden, and you can call in ancestors and ask their selves if it's okay for this exile to release the burden. Um, there's all kinds of ways to address their concerns. And when you are in self, you will know how to address their concerns. It's not like you need me to give you all of these scenarios and teach you how to do it. I'm just trying to give your system a feel for it. But you don't have to worry. When you're in self, you're just intuitive and creative, and you know how to meet their concerns. So if at that point you're like, oh gosh, I don't even know how to meet that concern, what? I don't know. That just means you're blended with another part who's trying to figure it out, and you can ask that part, oh, thank you so much, for trying to figure this out. But if you'll give me space, it'll come naturally through me. And then just allow the space, the patient space for the response to come. And then that last question of, once they have released their burdens, there's this spaciousness inside of them to go back to their naturally valuable qualities, which are often very self-like creativity and presence and playfulness, um, or to invite a new quality in. And again, you just ask them, is there anything you really a gift that you want, to contribute to the system? And they might say, I want to be the one in charge of fun, or I want to be the one explores new things, or I want to be the one who learns how to dance, or whatever it is, they'll tell you exactly. In my experience, a lot of the early parts that I got to know, the exiles, they would give these lists. It was so funny. They'd be like, I want to dance and sing and twirl around and skip and jump, and I want to hop over puddles, and I don't know, they would just say, like, go on and on and on about the things they wanted to do. It's just really delightful, honestly. And then when, they come into the present and they're with you and you check on them, a lot of times for those 3 or 4 weeks, they're doing those things, and it's really fun to see. And if they're not, and they ha still have burden, or they still have other things that they need help with, you can help them with them. All right. Um, Sorry, it seems like my video is not clear. I don't know what's happening. That's okay. So, all right, that concludes that. And I might do some further IFS teaching. I might do it with there was a 6-week course that I would do with people that got even more in depth in using IFS in your own system or with peers with others. And I might begin going through some of those during the IFS teaching series. So let me know if you are interested in that. That would be more advanced things like working with polarized parts, um, how to use parts work in relationships with other people, how to do, more deep dive with legacy burdens, how to work with parts who have complex trauma, right? Things like that. Okay. Thank you so much for watching this video if you've made it this far. Um, I was joking with my husband that I should do something where if people make it this far, that they like you put something special in the comments section so that I know that you watched to this point. Okay, so let's see. Let's just do a flower emoji. Put a flower emoji in the comments if you made it this far, because then I'll know that you watched the whole video. And of course, as always, if you have any questions or comments or anything to add to what I shared, go ahead and put that in the comments below.